Chelsea fans, welcome back to Talking Chelsea. Welcome back to your Chelsea news. Joao Pedro is officially a Chelsea player. The Mayor of London and Chelsea had a meeting to discuss the future of Stamford Bridge. We also have updates regarding Mohammed Kudus, Martinez, Joao Felix, Christopher Nkunku, and Chelsea are planning on more signings. Now, of course, I'll be giving my own thoughts and opinions on everything that's been reported, but more importantly, I want to know what you guys think down below in the comments. And before we get into the video, make sure you leave a like and subscribe if you are a Chelsea fan who enjoys Chelsea content. We're on the road to 10k by the end of 2025. Now, kicking things off, David Ornstein reported some breaking news yesterday evening that Chelsea have reached an agreement with Brighton to sign Joao Pedro. A deal in excess of £50 million has been struck, while personal terms are in place on a contract until 2032. Ben Jacobs then reported that Joao Pedro will cost Chelsea £55 million with a further £5 million in add-ons, and Brighton also retain the sell-on clause. He then goes on to say that Joao Pedro will fly in from Brazil for his medical and is set to be included in Chelsea's Club World Cup squad. Chelsea only decided to move for Pedro in mid-June, valuing his versatility, and intensified talks within the last 48 hours in order to secure Pedro for the Club World Cup. The registration window for the knockout stages ends July 3rd. Pedro could feature against Palmeiras on July 4th. Newcastle made a strong pitch and were bidding before Chelsea entered the race, but the Brazilian only wanted to move to Stamford Bridge in the end, living in London, another big factor away from the football pitch. This is very interesting. We spoke about Joao Pedro yesterday. Chelsea are moving wild in this transfer market. 2 signings in 24 hours. I don't know what's going on, if I'm being honest. And I did say yesterday, look, I'm on the fence about this signing purely because I understand Joao Pedro's qualities, right? He could play anywhere across the front line. You know, he could play predominantly on the left-hand side coming inside. He could play as a false 9. He could play as a 10. There's a lot of versatility. He makes a lot of sense in an Enzo Maresca system. However, Chelsea historically have had players that can play this role. Kai Havertz, Nkunku, Felix. It doesn't really work out for Chelsea, if I'm being honest. And this isn't me being negative. It's just looking at the facts, looking at it from a reality standpoint. Yes, you could argue that, you know, Felix didn't get as many minutes as he should have, right? Fair enough. We could argue that. But we could quite clearly see that when Chelsea have a player that doesn't really have a position, they're not an out-and-out 9, they're not a 10, they're not a left or right winger, and they can play all three quite well, but they're not got a specialised position. Chelsea managers don't know how to get the best out of them. The same thing, you know, the prime example for me was Kai Havertz. We had him for a number of seasons. Played him as a 9, as a 10, on that left-hand side. And yes, he had good moments, but he also had bad moments, and the bad moments outweighed the good ones. Nkunku, for some reason, has decided to turn up and is playing really well in his, you know, the opportunities he's been getting in the Club World Cup. And Joao Pedro fits in that mould. And this obviously opens the door for the likes of Joao Felix and Christopher Nkunku, which we'll speak about a little later in the video. And I want this to do well. I want this signing to do well. I want Joao Pedro to come in and hit the ground running, because if the board are backing Maresca-style signings for his system for this season, we have no excuses. We're giving Maresca all the tools and resources, which a lot of Chelsea fans were you know, screaming out for. You know, give him a chance, give him to the end of the season, see what he achieves, and then this season or this summer is a pivotal window to improving key areas and give Maresca the players that he needs to really excel into next season. And I feel like Joao Pedro has a lot of potential. He has got Premier League experience, and look, when he plays well, you can see how good he is and how versatile he is as a player. He's not a player that's going to go get you 25 goals a season, but he's going to create chances for the team. He is going to score goals as well. He's a good finisher. It's just knowing how he's going to be introduced and what his main position or style of play is going to be in an Enzo Maresca system. Is he going to be primarily used on the left in rotation with Jamie Gittins, where, you know, Gittins being a touchline winger and Pedro drifting inside, or, you know, maybe even trying to be more on the touchline and creating more? Is he going to be used in rotation with Delap, and does that mean Jackson is now leaving because of this? Is he going to be in rotation with Palmer? So, you know, if you look at it from that sense, on the right you can have Esteval and Noni, and the 10 you've got Joao Pedro and Palmer, and on the left you've got Jamie Gittins basically, or Tyreek George, obviously we can use. You know, there's a lot of versatility in that front line, because you could also say that you can have Nkunku playing on the left and that 10 if he does stay. You know, you can have Palmer on the right with Esteval or with Noni. You can have Esteval and Joao Pedro as 10s. There is a lot of versatility there. So I feel like it can work, and I'm excited to see how it blossoms, but I'm still on the fence. I'm not over the moon that we spent 60 million all in. Like I said to you in yesterday's video, I didn't want us to overpay for the sake of it. And there's an interesting stat we're going to talk about when it comes to Chelsea and Brighton players. I just thought was very interesting. I said 50 million is pretty much a standard Premier League transfer right now. Going for 50 million, you kind of go, okay, cool. That's kind of how things go. But it's £55 million and then £5 million in add-ons. Now, if them add-ons are going to be achievable or hard to obtain, is a different story. But it could be that it's a £60 million move in total. And for me, I know it's not our money. I know a lot of people say, why do we care? It's not our money. And I get that. But I just look at it and think, £60 million. And for £60 million for a player that doesn't really have a set position, we could have bought a player who has a set position for that money, who's got, more experience, whether it's world football or Premier League experience, and is just better in that one position than having someone that's pretty good in 2 or 3, if that makes a lot of sense. Now, I want to know what you guys think down below regarding Joao Pedro to Chelsea. In my opinion, I think this has potential to be a good signing. It also has potential to not work because of what I've mentioned about the history of these players that don't really have a set position. But very curious to know your thoughts down below. Do you think £60 million is a lot of money for Joao Pedro? Do you think this is about right? Do you think it's like fair market value for him? Do you think he's going to do well in the system? Do you think he's not going to do well? Very curious to know your thoughts down below regarding it. The one thing I will say is, look, Chelsea have said they're going to be aggressive in the market, and we've made 2 signings in 24 hours, and that's really good going. And, we've got some more interesting news later on in the video, but let me know your thoughts about Joao Pedro, and let's move on. Sky reported this graphic earlier, and I just thought this was very interesting, that Chelsea have now spent £263 million on Brighton players in the last 3 years, which is wild when you think about it. Now, if you look from left to right, Cucurella, 63 million. I thought it was a lot of money at the time, and to be honest, he didn't have a good start to Chelsea, but he is now one of the best left-backs. He just is. He's so good. And I'll hold my hands up and say that when we first signed him, I thought he was awful. I really thought he struggled. However, he's brought the fans along, he's turned them over, and you can't argue with his performances. And now I absolutely love Cucurella because of how good he is and how integral he is to the system that Chelsea play. And we saw that from when Pochettino changed the tactics with Cucurella, letting him invert in that last run of games. We really saw how good he is and how natural he can do that. Then he played in the Euros and won the Euros, and he was integral in that squad, like for Spain, and how good he was there. And he's not really looked back since. So I think that is a successful signing. It just took a bit of time to settle in, and that's fine. That could be us fans being a little bit impatient. I'm happy to admit that. But I still think 63 million at the time would just look like a lot of money for a left-back at Brighton at the time. Caicedo, obviously, £115 million. I think he's worth every single penny and more. This guy's unbelievable. I've seen all the videos from the recent game with them challenges, and he's got like elastic legs, mate. This guy is unreal. He's one of the best DMs in the world football. Unbelievable. Value for money. But at the same time, he had a relatively slow start into integrating himself into the Chelsea system and the squad, but it didn't take him as long as someone like Cucurella, for example. And he's just been unbelievable and consistently doing his job ever since. And now he's just a world beater. He's so good. And then you look at Sanchez for 25 million. Look, he's had a rocky Chelsea career, let's be honest. It hasn't been great for the longest of times. Out of the 3 players, he's taken the longest to settle and really adjust. However, like I'm always fair and I see both sides of things. I've said this many times. Since the turn of 2025, Sanchez has really improved, really come on leaps and bounds. And he's been relatively solid. He's been very solid. The only thing that lets him down is his distribution. And sometimes he takes a bit too long with the ball at his feet, in terms of getting rid of the ball, and obviously the distribution doesn't help. And sometimes he just gives the ball away to the opposition unnecessarily, right? So yes, there are still aspects of his game that do need to improve, but in terms of the errors leading to mistakes, that seems to have dried up. We know he's a very good shot stopper. He's become more confident in collecting crosses and corners. So again, he's got the potential. It looks like he's bedding into Chelsea's system. I still feel like Chelsea could go in for a #1 goalkeeper this summer. That's just my personal opinion. And then obviously you've got Joao Pedro for 60 million that's just happened, or 55 plus the 5 million add-ons if they're achieved. And we don't know how this is going to go. We've had a fairly successful run so far with the outfield players of Brighton. The issues have kind of been with management, if I'm being honest. But I just thought this was interesting. £263 million is a lot of money when you look at it, and then you look at the players involved. I think Cucurella and Caicedo now worth every penny, and if not more, because of how good they are and integral they are. But the other two, I think the jury's still out on Sanchez. A lot of fans don't want him as #1. That's fair enough. I see that. A lot of fans are saying, look, we just need to stick with him. He is our #1 and he's got better. And I also hear that side of the argument too. We just don't know how Joao Pedro is going to go. But I'd love to know your thoughts. Do you think that is a lot of money to be given to one Premier League club? Do you think we've overpaid for these players? Very curious to know your thoughts. Ben Jacobs also reported that Chelsea can effectively cover the Jamie Gittins or Joao Pedro fee with a win against Palmeiras. Around £40 million earned so far, plus £15 million if they qualify to the semi-finals. I thought this was quite interesting because if you look at the entry fee that we got, and we also, going through the groups, we technically covered Liam Delap's transfer. This is how integral and this is how important that the Club World Cup is financially for a lot of clubs that are involved. This is allowing us to spend more money because it's essentially we're breaking even or, making very minimal losses, or we're actually making profit. If you take, the Liam Delap one, for example, we're 6.5 million, 8 million, whatever it is, ahead of his transfer. If we then go further in the competition, that's more money we get that's going to swallow up what we paid for either Joao Pedro or Gittins, which makes a lot of sense, right? And it actually works in our favour massively. So this could be another reason why Chelsea are like, right, we can go really super aggressive in this market and go buy these players, because financially we're getting extra money from the Club World Cup, and we're also very healthy with the PSR so far in terms of selling things, moving assets around, and we still have to offload players. This is the scary thing for rival fans who keep saying, how do Chelsea keep buying players? We've not even offloaded the players that we're looking to sell this summer, which is in fact more money to go against what we've spent and go on top of the profit that we're allowed to spend within the next financial year. So I just thought this was really interesting, and I'd love to know your thoughts. Do you think Chelsea's system under this new ownership is now starting to show almost like the vision they had from the start, which I will admit a lot of fans didn't really see because it just sounded too far-fetched, but now we're starting to see the positives of the buying and selling? And do you feel like Chelsea are really cutting this down and just improving in key areas with the right players and utilising that money in the right... have we played the long game right, is what I'm saying? Do you feel like this is now starting to come into effect where we can really utilise the positives of this plan, or do you feel like it's just been potluck and it's been luck of the draw as things have fallen for us? The Mirror have reported that Chelsea have been offered the chance to sign Aston Villa's Martinez for £45 million. He would prefer a move to Manchester United. Now, we spoke about Martinez recently. I think it was yesterday's video, maybe in the video before. And I think he is a huge upgrade on Sanchez, except for playing out with the ball at his feet. And he still has mistakes in him. I wouldn't be over the moon if we bought Martinez, especially for £45 million, when we know that we could have got Mike Maignan for a lot less money, 25 million euros, 20 million pounds, who is a huge upgrade in terms of goalkeeping abilities and being comfortable playing out the ball with his feet, and his distribution's fantastic. I'd be really upset if Chelsea went and got Martinez for £45 million, knowing that for a few million quid extra at the time of negotiations we could have got someone like Mike Maignan. However, I'm very curious to know your thoughts. Some people are on the fence with Martinez. Some people really don't rate him. Some people think he's a fantastic keeper. He's one of the best around. I think he is a good shot stopper. He is a good keeper, and his distribution is better than Sanchez because that bar is very low. It's just the confidence of playing out with the ball at his feet. I'm just not sure he is the ball-playing goalkeeper that Enzo Maresca would want for his club. I could be wrong, happy to be proven wrong, but I just think £45 million is an extortionate amount of money to be paying for someone like Martinez when there are other keepers available. If that was the case, you'd much rather go for a Kobel at Dortmund and pay the extra 15, 20 million and get him, because he's younger, he is good with the ball at his feet, and he is still an excellent goalkeeper with his goalkeeping ability. That's just my 2 cents on it. But I feel it very interesting that he's been a key player for Villa, and Villa are now looking to offload him because of PSR. And I kind of feel for Villa and Villa fans, really, because they're doing well, but they're in a lot of trouble financially, and they have to offload these players like Martinez, like an Ollie Watkins, potentially, because they put so much into their wage bill to allow to get these players in to then improve the squad, and the revenue just barely covers it, and they're just in trouble all the time. So I don't blame Villa for slapping a £45 million price tag on Martinez. And of course, this is paper talk, so it could be inflated numbers. It might even be reliable. I just like to react to headlines and get your guys' opinions in the comments. But I just think it's a lot of money for a goalkeeper. Do you think that Martinez is worth £45 million? I personally don't. I wouldn't pay anywhere near that for Martinez. I think the 30 million would probably be the most I'd pay for him. And I think that's still a lot of money for a goalkeeper. But that could just be because I'm a bit older, and that's in my head. I'm thinking old money of 30 million being a lot of money. So I'm very curious to know your thoughts about Martinez. Do you think he would be a massive improvement for Chelsea? Do you think we don't need him? Should we have gone for Mike Maignan instead, for who is cheaper and, in my opinion, a better goalkeeper? And what do you think about the £45 million price tag? Jacob Steinberg has reported that Joao Pedro is seen as a better fit than Christopher Nkunku and Joao Felix for Enzo Maresca's system. Felix is wanted by Benfica, and Nkunku will be allowed to leave for the right price. And we mentioned this earlier in the video with the Joao Pedro signing. You know, it's potential he could play against Palmeiras. They've really sped this up to get him in for the next stages of the Club World Cup. I personally don't think he'll play against Palmeiras. It's very, very short turnaround to sign a player and just chuck him into the system, even if it's to get minutes off the bench. I could be proven wrong, but I just think that's a very, very sharp turnaround. He would have probably had 1 or maybe 2 training sessions if everything goes as swimmingly as planned, because he's currently doing his medical, etc. He's really speeding this up. But it does highlight Christopher Nkunku, Joao Felix as the 2 players that are very similar to Joao Pedro, and like I said, they don't have a fixed position but can play a myriad of them. Now, Nkunku, a lot of fans, myself included, have been quite disappointed, you know, with his body language, looking like he wanted that exit. In the Club World Cup, he's been really playing with pride, playing with passion, and showing what he can do. And you could see, you know, just from the effort alone, he's starting to press more, starting to get involved in Maresca's system. I don't know whether he's trying to play the best he can so he can secure that move away, or if he's had a change of heart and he's like, I actually want to fight for my place in the Maresca system, because he knows there's an opportunity there to get a lot more minutes and be a vital part of the first team squad. If it's the latter, and that's the case for Nkunku, then I would like to keep him, because I think he is still a very good player. And if he can kind of mentally make that shift where he wants to push for that first team selection, he knows that Maresca is going to go use this new system where it's more of a 4-2-2-2, you know, potentially with 2 strikers at times, which could be very interesting. Having that free-flowing front line with, you know, that 10, the wingers, everything like that second striker role. I feel like there is definitely a space for Nkunku in terms of depth. He's a very, very good player, so I would like to keep him. When it comes to Joao Felix, I've kind of accepted the fact that he is going to be off this summer. I feel like we've spoke about this many, many times. When it comes to Joao Felix, it was that sort of the weight in the deal of the Conor Gallagher thing, and we've not really given him many minutes. Yes, he played Conference League, but we know that Felix wanted more minutes than that. We then offloaded him in January. Maresca didn't want him, to be honest. Doesn't fit the system in the way that he thought he could. He was a player he was given rather than going out and getting like he is in this summer window. So yeah, he's wanted by Benfica. I think it'd be a really good and really wholesome move for Felix to go back to Benfica. He's loved there. It's where he really kicked on, the club that kind of put him on the map. I think it'd be a really good fit for him, and I feel like we could get some decent money for him as well, even if it's on a loan or whatnot, just to start with, and then with a buyback, like a obligation to buy. But I think it's very interesting. I'd like to know your thoughts and opinions regarding Christopher Nkunku and Joao Felix. Should we keep them? Should we offload them? With the signing of Joao Pedro, does this kind of guarantee that these guys are sold? Or will it be someone like Nicholas Jackson that leaves instead, and will we have Pedro and Delap as that rotation striker? Or will we actually keep all 3 as forward options to have Delap and Jackson potentially play together with Joao Pedro as the rotation forward? Very curious to know your thoughts down below. The Telegraph have reported that Chelsea have held talks with the Mayor of London's office over building a new stadium. The report goes on to say that Chelsea met recently with officials at City Hall after Sadiq Khan publicly urged them to speak with his team about whether they wanted to leave Stamford Bridge for Earls Court or redevelop Stamford Bridge. This is always a touchy subject with Chelsea fans, and I fully appreciate that. Even myself, I'm kind of on the fence. I'm kind of on the fence that Stamford Bridge is our home. We've had it since 1905. It is church for us Chelsea fans, right? We love it. We absolutely love it. But realistically, the way that football's moving and the way that things are developing, and out of the big 6, we have the smallest stadium capacity. Times change, things move on, and we are getting to a stage now where we do and should have a 60,000 seater stadium at least. I feel like the extra revenue it generates would be fantastic for the club and PSR, and that is becoming more prevalent within football now, this whole PSR thing. So now we have Champions League football. That's amazing. That obviously brings more revenue. We'll hopefully have a shirt sponsor by the start of the season, which is exactly more revenue. But if we had a bigger stadium, it means more fans would be able to get to the games, which is great, because that's always been a problem because of how many, our capacity is like 41,500. Increasing that I know that a lot of people say it's just going to go to tourists or whatever, but in terms of the club that we all support, they would be better off financially if they move. I don't want to see us move purely from a sentimental standpoint because it's our home. But then I look at other clubs that have similar things and they've moved. You look at West Ham, you look at Arsenal, it's like other London clubs, you look at Tottenham. They've all done that too. They've had their stadiums with all their history in it. and they've had to move to new, bigger and better stadiums, and they're creating new memories and new history. And I just feel like it's time for Chelsea to really think about that in terms of, this stadium isn't going to be put up in the next 2 years. It's not that sort of a fix. This is just having chats with the Mayor of London, like, what do you want to do? Do you want to go for the Earls Court development? Do you want to stay at Stamford Bridge, redevelop? Let's actually work together and get some sort of plan in place. Yes, you've got to speak to the Chelsea pitch owners, but they've always said that they're willing to sit down and have chats about it. And if it makes sense for the club and the fans, then of course they will back that decision. The whole point of the Chelsea pitch owners is so we have a fair say in this, and we can actually have these discussions with Chelsea directly. Roman Abramovich was very public about how many times he spoke to them and had, he used to hold votes with them about certain things in the club, and whatever was voted or said within those meetings with the Chelsea pitch owners, he respected and honoured whatever was decided. And this has been going on for 20 years, 25 years nearly. Chelsea going in these circles of, we need to improve Stamford Bridge if we're not going to leave, but we can't because of the railway lines or the housing around it or the space we've got. To go up, you need to go out as well, and we can't go out to then go up. Can we go down? No, because we've got the tubes and stuff. And then it's like, okay, well, we're going to move. It was Battersea Power Station. We then missed out on that. Now it's Earls Court. That's been a suitor for many years. That's also been redeveloped into, I think it's a load of housing or something else. It's just always going in circles. But I thought it was very interesting that Sadiq Khan publicly said, like, let's just have a chat about it. These rumours keep coming around. You want to do something. You want either a new stadium or a new development by like 2035 or whatever. Let's just have a talk about it and see what's actually viable, and then you can actually do something about it. And I just thought it was quite interesting, to be fair, and I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions. I don't know if I spoke about it too much here on the channel, maybe once or twice, but like I said, I'm currently on the fence. I don't want us to leave because that's our home, but at the same time, when you take the emotion out of it in terms of the way football's going, the way things are expanding, the way things are progressing, it does make a lot of financial sense to then have a more modern stadium where we can create new memories and we can have that bigger capacity. And, we are a Big Six club, and when you realise that we're a Big Six club that has the lowest capacity, you kind of think, okay, United are going to redevelop a new stadium, Arsenal have got one, Spurs have got an incredible new stadium. It's just something that's we've kind of been felt, dragging our heels behind. We're proud of where we are, and we have that history, but I do think it's time for us to move on, financially at least. Simon Phillips has reported that Chelsea are still trying for Kudus as well, and Maresca's other wants are a new goalkeeper and a centre-back. Antonio Silva was scouted again last night and has been on the shortlist for some time. Chelsea rejected a chance to go for John Duran this week too. Jason Steinberg has also reported that Enzo Maresca has been looking for the player capable of playing in a range of attacking positions, with Chelsea also considering a move for Mohammed Kudus. West Ham expect to receive bids from Kudus from elsewhere. Now, we spoke about Mohammed yesterday in yesterday's video. And again, I think this would be an incredible signing if Chelsea could pull it off. We'd have insane depth to go through the entire season and compete on all fronts. He is a workhorse. He's very smart in the final third with his decision making. He's clinical with the chances that he gets. He can play in a myriad of positions across that front line. He would be incredible. And the fact that Chelsea is still considering it, still trying to push for it, is a really good sign. We've really seen Chelsea turn it on in the last 24 hours and get two signings they really want done. Two signings, I mean, yes, Gittins did take a few weeks because of the negotiations, etc. But when it really comes to it and they're like, right, we want to get this done, done. Joao Pedro, done. And I think if Kudus is on that list, get it done. Get it done while we still can, because he really is a level raiser. I know people really don't like me using that needle mover phrase, etc. But he is. He would massively improve the squad in the qualities that he can bring. And I feel like he will work perfectly in a Maresca system purely because of the work rate he's got. And again, the sort of traits that I've listed. He's a fantastic player, and I hope that the reports recently are with Chelsea have offered players and £50 million down, and West Ham basically don't want that. I hope again that Chelsea wouldn't go and meet the £85 million release clause that they've got for Premier League clubs. However, West Ham have said that they are willing to take a little bit less than that. So look, go and spend that £60-65 million, get this deal over the line, and we would have an incredible squad. I mean, we do have a very good squad as it is. You add someone like Mohammed Kudus into the mix, mate, that takes it to a whole nother level going into next season. It's a very exciting time to be a Chelsea fan, especially with this transfer window, because Chelsea are moving like they mean business. But I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions down below regarding Mohammed Kudus. Do you want him in a Chelsea shirt? Do you feel like Chelsea should go and pay that £65-70 million for him? Should we just go all out and pay the £85 million? Or are you hoping that we can get him for a reduced fee plus players to West Ham? And lastly, Fabrizio Romano put this out on Instagram, and I thought this was very interesting. Would love to know your thoughts. But Fabrizio Romano said, Chelsea are not messing around. 4 additions to their attacking department are set to be added for the upcoming season, and all deals have been sealed. Obviously, you've got Jamie Gittins from Dortmund, Willian Esteval from Palmeiras, Joao Pedro from Brighton, Liam Delap from Ipswich, Giovanni Cuenda coming in 2026 from Sporting. And yes, they are not done yet on the market, with eyeballs and a dynamite emoji. Now, look, I know that we're reading in between the lines as a speculation and whatnot, but let's be honest, Fabrizio is relatively reliable, just like Ornstein and a lot of these others, and I'd love to know your thoughts, because this tells me that Chelsea are going to go in, maybe get that centre-back, maybe get that goalkeeper, maybe get that player like Mohammed Kudus that they are just heavily linked with right now, because they're on a roll in terms of just securing the people that they want. They were quick with the Delap deal. They got the Gittins one over the line. Yes, like I said, it took a little while, but they got it over the line, and they snapped up Joao Pedro. It seems like when Chelsea decide that they want to play it, they want it done ASAP, Rocky, and I'm all for that. Giovanni Cuenda coming in 2026, I feel like means that, you know, we may not see another winger coming in, or there will definitely be some off-boardings in terms of players. We know that there's a long list of players that Chelsea want to sell this summer, so it'll be very interesting, and I'm excited for Cuenda coming in 2026. He's going to come into a very exciting squad, but I want to know who you think Chelsea are going to be signing next. Is it going to be a goalkeeper? Is it going to be Mohammed Kudus? Is it going to be a centre-back? Which players in those positions would you want Chelsea to sign? I would love to know your thoughts and opinions down below. I personally think that we can go back in and get Mike Maignan. I think that we can. I think that's something that we will re-look into a little bit later in the window and see if we can get that over the line for money that we are more happy with than AC Milan, for example. Centre-back, looks like Mark Gahey is going to Liverpool. That is the heavy links, heavy interest there. So I'm hoping we actually get some left-back cover for Cucurella. Someone who could play centrally and on the left would be great. Someone like a Joao Hato would be perfect, in my opinion, to go and secure this summer if it's possible. There are talks it's in the region of like 45, 50 million pounds, which I think is a bargain for a player like Hato. But I'm very curious to know your thoughts on who you think Chelsea are going to bring in this summer. And that's all the latest Chelsea news. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on everything that's been reported down below in the comment section. I love having a conversation with you guys. And if you are watching this video all the way to the end, firstly, you're a real one, and I mean that, you're a real one. But secondly, there'll be a thumbnail appears on the screen. So if you are a Chelsea fan who enjoys Chelsea content, make sure you click that thumbnail because you'll enjoy that video too.